You know that movie, The Perfect Storm, where they get caught up out there in a storm in the Atlantic and all that kind of stuff. It almost seems as if the market is rolling into one of those kind of perfect storm type situation. We're going to be asking the question, how do you pinpoint the winners when the market seems to be playing a losing game? Or in other words, how do you find strong stocks when the market's weak? In my experience, and one of the things that IBD always tells you to do is to basically look for strong stocks that are holding up better. So you can look at relative strength, defensive sectors. Also, there's a lot of times when there's a sector rotation rolling into the defensive type stocks. And I'm not talking about defense stocks. I'm talking about things that hold up well that are not your typical growth stocks. If you're a yield, if you're a dividend kind of investor, you can look at things that have a 4, 5, 6% yield to be investing in. That's another way. So, Anil, how do you find great stocks when things are not looking too hot?
I'm looking for stocks that are holding up in a bad market. So I'm looking for a 3 months RS value. I'm also
Okay.
looking for accumulation distribution not to break down. And accumulation distribution is in markets, they are putting it as a based on past 13 weeks.
Okay.
They must be using some weighted averages because the way Nvidia went bad this week was pretty fast.
Yeah.
It changed from a B plus to B minus to C plus, and today I think it's a D as in dog. So
Because is it turning into a dog?
that's a great question. Time will tell.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting about NVIDIA is, did you know that last year, while it was doing its rocket ride last year, actually its accumulation distribution did go to a D, and that's why it got kicked off of all my primary list. And so that's awesome, Anil. Yeah, and I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Do you agree with that policy, sailor?
Absolutely, sir.
And then look at the financial health. As Neil was saying, IBD does a really good job of keeping you up to date on what things are melting or what things are breaking in the stocks from a perspective of financial health. And so then you can also, which is one of my things that I like to do, is just use my technical analysis. And there's a couple of things I'm looking at. I want to be looking for a stock that is actually hanging out above its 200-day moving average. That's one. And I want the 50-day moving average to be above the 200-day moving average. That's number two. And then I'll watch it from there. And it would be nice to still have it in an uptrend or at least horizontal consolidation where it's not, the big thing is it's not selling off with the rest of the market. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
The thing about it is when you're taking charge of that, you want to be keeping your on, of course. How do you track all that stuff? And so one of the ways we track things is on our AutoPilot Trading Journal. It's a fantastic way to track your trades and apply the principles you learn every week. I'll put the link for the journal down in the description. And this is a really great 160 pages with all my rules and also a great way to organize your trade. Learn to value the sophistication of simplicity. And remember, folks, that all materials presented are for training purposes. Traders should always paper trade any new method prior to the risk of their own personal capital. Past performance is not an indication or promise of future performance.